Okay, so this is how to make the poster, or really how to make an effective poster. So we're going to start off by talking about some resources to make the best poster humanly possible. So my first resource suggestion is Pinterest. Definitely very underrated for academic settings. So I would suggest just typing in poster design into Pinterest. This will give you a lot of great ideas for graphic design or things that just inspire you. They don't have to have anything to do with academics. You could just simply say, that poster's really cool. I really like some element of it, whether it's its linearity, its colors, the font it uses. So a lot of times I will start with a poster that I really like and I want to emulate something about that in my own poster. And you can even take a screenshot, and we might use that a little later. So another way to have an effective poster is to use some internet resources. My first internet resource is dafont.com. This is a really nice resource for finding fonts that you might want to recreate or use. Personally, I actually have been unsuccessful in downloading fonts to Procreate itself. However, I'm sure with a little research you could. I personally like how Dafont fonts look when I hand letter over them, kind of adding my own flares and such. So I really like this font, Letter Magic, and I'll screenshot that and I'll save it for later as well. One other resource I use is color palettes. So, dyslexia really got me. This website right here, if you just start the generator and you're looking for a color palette, literally the best way to do it is using this website or a poster from Pinterest and kind of just borrowing the color palette. With this website, you're just going to look at the colors. If you don't like any of them, press the space bar and all new color palettes are going to show up. But if you see a color you like, for instance, I really like that middle color, you just lock it and it starts making color palettes around that. I really like this side. So now it's looking for 2 colors that would go well. I don't know if I'm in love with either of those, so I just keep going, and it's just gonna keep making suggestions. I kind of like this red, maybe, and I kind of like this blue. Now, personally, I might not use this entire color palette, I might take inspiration from it, so on or so forth, but this is a great resource because it's scientifically looking at what's pleasing to the eye. Now, would I probably use all these colors in a color palette? Probably not, but great resource. I would probably spend a little more time if I was looking for something more exact, but this would create a nice poster. And then I'm also going to take a screenshot of this. So we're just going to jump back into Procreate. I'm going to turn that off, and I'm going to add some of my resources by going to add, insert a photo. Alrighty, so I have some of my photos inserted. So for instance, I might be using one of these as my jumping off point, and so I'm going to show you how I use these pictures as resources. So first, if I really liked this, I'd probably just use that as an overall inspiration. However, you could also use specific colors. And how you use specific colors in Procreate is by being on the brush tool, and then you just hold down over the color. Then the color is going to pop up in the upper right, and you can see it there. It's gonna pop up in your disk, your classic, all of the above. This is where I would make a new palette, create a new palette. You can also create them from camera roll, which takes all of the colors in a photo and makes a palette out of them, which is really cool. But I usually like specific colors, so I'll call this Psych 105 project palette. So you then just tap the square and the color is saved forever. Then you could do the same thing with the turquoise and the kind of blush tone and so forth. So that's probably how I would use that as inspiration. Another way I would use it as inspiration is this grainy texture. I might look for a brush that uses a similar texture. So maybe I go into the vintage, not seeing anything there. I see the noise brush. You can also go into a lot of brush details here. This is definitely for somebody who's super into it, and you can definitely get into it. However, if you're just making a poster, you can just press the brush. That brush might kind of emulate that noise we see in the photo. And so I might think to myself like, okay, I will use that brush, looks kind of cool. So that's probably how I would use the Pinterest poster. How I'd use the color palette is essentially the same way I'd use the Pinterest poster. So you could really choose one or the other, or both if you have a Pinterest poster of what you like the poster, but not necessarily the palette. So I just do the same thing on the brush, hold down, add the colors to the palette, and that is a super effective way of just maintaining a very clean poster. So the next thing would be the DeFont lettering. Now a lot of times I don't want to use my handwriting, and I don't want to use a text from the text boxes that you can add, but I do want to do an interesting lettering. So I will use the DeFont image. I make a layer on top, that's very important. I grab my monoline or an inking brush, and I simply, well, I would prefer to make the photo a little bigger to make this easier. I simply copy over the lettering though. And this is just like a really simple and effective way to spice up your posters. I copy over it a little more careful than this. A lot of times I'll also just mix up the lettering to bring my own creative sauce to it all. I don't want to be directly copying somebody. So I'm not looking to directly copy a letter. So if a letter isn't found in the name, DeFont makes it easy. You just go click on it and you can see every single letter possible that the graphic designer has made, and just copy them into your Procreate document. So that's all for inspiration. Once you know what you're gonna make, a few other big things are just paying attention to the size of things. What do you want people to look at? What do you not want people to look at as much? Colors in relation to one another. What pops more? What pops less? What's a good background color? What's legible? And so those are kind of the important things. Small details that make things look a lot more clean can be helped a lot by just putting your drawing grid on. Procreate also has the slightly annoying function of that this is going to look really clean at the size you make it, but when you blow something up, it might look a little fuzzy on the edges. I'll just show you how much cleaner it looks if I just, I'm using the brush tool, and if I just go like this, we see that really crisp edge. So those are just some smaller nitpicky things. Overall, Procreate is an amazing creative software, and you can really do whatever you want. It is definitely intended for drawing, but making a more creative freehand poster also turns out really, really well. So, how to use Procreate? Just follow those steps. There are no rules. Google things. YouTube tutorials have taught me a lot personally. There's really no right or wrong, and if you get messed up or frustrated, just go back to those core tools in the top right here, and simply go back to the basics. I hope this tutorial was helpful, and I hope you learned something.